Chris Gutierrez was originally scheduled to compete against Javid Basharat this week, and unfortunately, an injury had struck Basharat and pulled him out of the matchup. They took a few days, but the UFC finally decided to bring in Kwang Lee to take on Chris Gutierrez on short notice. Now, Kwang Lee is a fighter that was formerly on the LFA roster and was scheduled to compete on the Contender series this season against an Australian fighter. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but we've seen this last season as well. Guys like Joshua Van were pulled from their Contender Series fight to fill the gaps that were being made in the UFC schedule, and Kwang Lee benefits from that, skipping the interview process of the Contender Series and getting right to the big show after accruing an 8-0 record on the regional scene. Most of those last fights coming under the LFA banner, as I said. Now, Gutierrez is obviously looking to continue his run as well, trying to get back into the rankings, or at least get back into the higher levels of the rankings after coming up short in two big fights. Pedro Munoz was obviously able to defeat him. Song Yadong defeated him in a main event slot as well. But Gutierrez is a guy that brings that calf kicking approach, and probably one of the better calf kickers that we have on the roster. His ability to manage range and utilize his footwork to stay on the outside and batter that lead calf of his opponents allows the rest of his striking game to open up pretty well. Now he's taking on a short notice Kwang Lee, who is also a striker who likes to use a little bit more flash with his techniques, and he does have some pop on his shots. More often than not, you see fighters looking to get him to the ground, which is why you see his defensive takedown game improving. His get-ups are improving as well, so that he can really get to work in the striking realm. With me, I think that this is a kind of tailor-made matchup for Gutierrez, considering how easily we see Kwang Lee giving up some of these leg kicks. Even in his last matchup against TL Tong, that was a matchup where Tong had pretty much a run of the litter in terms of, a run of easy leg kicks to land there. But unfortunately, before he was able to really reap the benefits of his labor there, or the rewards of his labor, we saw Kwang Lee put his legs clean out. So I think we'll see Gutierrez a little bit better in terms of his defensive work, staying safe at distance one after he lands his leg kicks, not get drawn into a boxing or a pocket exchange where Lee's possible power advantage could come into play. But I think that Gutierrez should be good enough here in terms of utilizing his experience, his expertise in the kicking game, and then really putting it on the youngster here in Kwang Lee, who this might be too big of a step up for him to go from a guy like TL Tong, who's a decent regional prospect, to face a guy like Chris Gutierrez, who's on the cusp of breaking into title contention had he not dropped those fights to Pedro Munoz and Song Yadong. So good spot for Gutierrez. Obviously he's minus 400, so a little bit of a chalky favorite there, but I expect him to come through relatively easy here. Again, classic Gutierrez performance.